Unlocking English. Asking for advice with ought to. Hello everyone. Welcome back to our channel. In today's lesson, we'll dive into an interesting and somewhat tricky part of English language learning. Using the modal verb, ought to, in questions. Modal verbs are very important in English, and ought to is one we use when giving or asking for advice. So let's jump right in. Before we start forming questions with ought to, let's quickly go over what it means. The phrase ought to is a modal verb used to express obligation or advisability. It's similar to should. We often use it when we think something is a good idea or the right thing to do. For example, if we say, "You ought to study for your exams," it means we think it's a good idea for you to study for your exams. It's essentially a polite way of giving advice or making a recommendation. Now, how do we ask for advice using ought to in a question? It's not as common as using should, but it is possible and it adds some variety to your English. You will usually see ought to in questions like, "What ought I to do?" or "Where ought we to go?" To create a question with ought to, you start with your question word, if necessary, then your subject, followed by ought to and your verb. For example, "What ought I to do about my grades?" "Where ought they to visit while in London?" Note that these forms are more common in British English and may sound a bit formal or old-fashioned in American English. Although the formal structure exists, you're more likely to hear ought to in statements of advice than in questions. In fact, you'll more frequently encounter should in questions. But it's good to know this form for your English comprehension, and for those times when you want to sound a bit more formal or sophisticated. For example, instead of, "What should I do about my job?" you could say, "What ought I to do about my job?" That wraps up our quick lesson on using ought to in questions to ask for advice. Remember, while ought to is less common in questions, it's still an important part of the English language, and knowing how to use it properly can make your English sound more fluent and natural. We hope this video has been helpful. Stay curious, keep learning, and we'll see you in our next video.